Hello, Namaskar. Welcome to week 6, lecture 3, football need analysis. We will review the football need analysis framework. This would be the first objective of the lecture. The second objective is to identify football game demands. The third objective is to identify football physiological demands. And the last objective is to apply these demands to sports need analysis framework. The outcome of this lecture is to connect the game demands with football fitness variables. That is, you link football sports biomotor demands from the game demands. Know football sports key performance indicator to monitor and test from the physiological demand and the game demand. And the last outcome is you should able to justify the test selected and the fitness variable that you are going to train to improve the football sports performance. Let's begin with sports need analysis framework. Now, what is sports need analysis? A sports need analysis is a structured process used to determine. What are we trying to find out? We are trying to find out the physical, technical, tactical, psychological and injury related demands of a sport. It forms the basic for designing evidence-based and performance-oriented training programs. As mentioned in the earlier lectures, an athlete's performance, three broad pillars are physical ability, technical or tactical ability, and psychological ability. So within these three contexts, an athlete's performance increases. So for every sports, the demand of each of this pillar varies. So before even you begin program or before you even thinking about improving an athlete's performance, the homework that you should be doing is find out what are the physical, technical, tactical and psychological and injury related demands for the sport. Now, for the limited to this course, we are going to speak only about the physical component. So, we are not going to talk about the technical component and the tactical and the psychological component, and lastly the injury component of the game demands. So what are the different parts of sports need analysis? Now this include physiological, biomechanical, injury analysis, technical, tactical, psychological and positioning profiling. So again, as I mentioned, we are going to specifically focus on the physiological analysis part of the need analysis for the sake of this course. Now, sports need analysis framework specifically used for this course would include you determine or you find out the game demand and the physiological demand of the sports and link it to the physical ability for a sport, connecting this physical ability with the respective fitness variables, that is biomotor variables, and connecting these biomotor variables with KPI, connecting this KPI with test and connecting this test to the protocol. Because ultimately, if you want to design a program, you are trying to find out what are you trying to improve, and this you identify with the KPI that you are testing. How do you know what KPI you need to train? You connect with the fitness variables that need to increase. How do you know what fitness variable to increase? You connect it with the demand, game demand, the physical ability demand of that particular sports. That's how you can directly apply sports need analysis to your program design, and this is called as sports need analysis framework. Two aspects you would use: the game demand information and the physiological information. We will explore this application for football sports in this lecture. Now, as a football, we will start with the game demand. A football position includes a goalkeeper, then the defender, then the midfielder, and then the forward, going this way. Now let's explore the game demand in detail. So the total distance on an average that is covered by a football player is 10.8 km, and the maximum is 13.8 km within the 90 minutes of the game. Now this game demand implies that the game requires aerobic capacity because it is played for so long and needs to cover that much of distance. Now what ability, now connecting with this with the need analysis framework, the demand is to cover this amount of distance. So which physical ability would ensure that this demand is fulfilled? This is CRF. Now going one step deeper, how is this distance covered? It is covered with an high intensity run ability. It is covered at a sprint ability. So these are the two different types of physical ability that has been monitored as the demand for a football game. So high intensity running, it means you run greater than 18 km per hour. So total of 681 to 693 meters of distance is covered at high speed. Your high speed is defined as approximately 20 km, in between 20 to 25 km per hour at an elite level. And sprinting is done, and sprinting is considered as the speed greater than 25 km per hour. So sprinting is done with an average of 250 to 260 meters. So this is the demand of the game. So among the total distance that is covered, high speed run and sprinting are the two activities demanded for football, and the corresponding volume is around 700 meters of high speed running and up to 260 meters of sprinting. How many number of sprints? Around 11 plus minus 6 sprint per matches. Now this implies that in a football game, now okay, let's connect what ability, what physical ability is required in order to complete this demand. If I want to run at 20 to 25 km per hour speed, what I need is, I need higher speed ability, that is max speed. And now I have to do it at a repeated time. 11 plus minus 6 times I have to sprint this way. Now this is repeating at a higher speed. Now this is conditioning. Because it is high intensity, high speed, this would be an anaerobic conditioning. Now this fitness variable is required in order to complete the demand of repeatedly sprinting. That's how you can connect the game demand with the biomotor variable, that is fitness variable that is required for the sport. Now consider the information of total distance covered and the nature of distance covered for different position, focusing specifically for midfielders. So midfielders covered around 10.5 to 12 kilometers total distance. Among that, around 1.2 kilometers of distance is covered with high speed. It is the demand of the position. It means in between 20 to 25 km per hour, that is the speed a midfielder needs to run with, and he covers a total distance of around 1.2 kilometers. Then sprinting, that is running greater than 25 km per hour. At that intensity, the total distance that is covered is 150 to 200 meters. Now consider with winger. At winger position, maximum high speed run and maximum high sprint repeatability is demanded. So for both this position, greater speed is the demand that the athlete should overcome. So that is the fitness an athlete should have, and higher conditioning fitness variable. So this is what you understand by connecting the demand of the game and linking it with the fitness variable. When it comes to physiological demand, the key performance indicators that are frequently used are heart rate or blood lactate threshold or VO₂max. Let's focus on midfielder position. A midfielder position has around 60 to 65 ml per kg per minute of VO₂max. This is again at an elite level. The blood lactate threshold is 80 to 85%. It means that midfielder must have the highest aerobic capacity, and he needs to maintain that throughout the match. So it means that he should have the lowest fatigue index when the RAS test is performed, and he should have the highest aerobic conditioning, that is the mass value, because this is what the demand of a midfielder player must fulfill. Another position, winger, the VO₂max is in between 58 to 64 ml per kg per minute, again at an elite level, and the aerobic capacity is again 80 to 85%. So midfielder and winger position demands less fatigue index, greater average speed in the RAS test, greater mass value, so that it represents greater aerobic conditioning. So connecting this to sports need analysis framework, where you connect the demand with physical ability, the physical ability with the biomotor variable, the biomotor variable with KPI, and the KPI with the test, and test with the protocol. So overall, the game demands to cover maximal distance. Now this physical ability requires aerobic endurance. The KPI is VO₂max, the test is CRF cardio test, and the protocol is, for an example, 2.4 kilometer run test. The game demands to perform a repeated high speed run. This is represented by anaerobic conditioning. The KPI is blood lactate threshold or velocity of VO₂max or velocity of IFT, and this is conducted by conditioning test, example ROS test or 30-50 IFT test. So in summary, a sports need analysis identified physical, technical, tactical, psychological and injury related demands. For the sake of this course, we are focusing only on physical and physiological demand. The football demands vary by position. Game demand includes covering a total of 10.8 kilometer distance on an average with the peak up to 13.8 kilometers. The game demand includes covering 10.8 kilometers on average distance with a maximum of 13.8 kilometers distance. High speed run is between approximately 20 to 25 km per hour and sprinting is represented by speed greater than 25 km per hour. Position specific workload difference. Midfielder covers most distance, hence it demands highest VO₂ max. Winger performs most sprint, hence it demands highest anaerobic capacity. Defender cover less distance but perform repeated short bout. Again it represents to have a high amount of anaerobic capacity. Physiological demand differs by position. Midfielder have the highest VO₂ max and blood lactate threshold range in between 75 to 85% of VO₂ max depending upon the position, that is role. The key take home message is applying need analysis, linking it with game demands to physical ability, linking physical ability to fitness variable, that is biomotor variable, linking this fitness variable to the KPI that needs to monitor and connecting this KPI with the corresponding fitness test that will measure this KPI. So for a football game, anaerobic conditioning and aerobic conditioning need to be tested so that velocity at VO₂ max can be identified and corresponding aerobic conditioning and anaerobic conditioning intensity can be prescribed to improve the repeated high speed run ability for every position in the sport for a football. Thank you.